Hello, everybody! If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, is my co-host who's on the road. It's Tom. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hello, friends.
Tom, what's it like to have to do the show sometimes, occasionally, from the road for you, now that you live my life where I had to do this show for years, often being on the road very consistently?
It's fine.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, it is easier when you're just joining in as opposed to like trying to actually do the show. So,
No, I'm doing the show, and it's great.
Sure.
Steve's a great host.
He is, yes. Also joining us on the show, back on the show. One of my
Hello,
favorite
all.
people in all of Warhammer. It's Steve Herner. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hi, thanks for having me back. Appreciate it. Hello, everyone.
I have a pretty great hobby space. I won't lie. I'm very proud of it. But my hobby space is like Garbo compared to Steve's hobby space. That is the number one thing I think every time I look at Steve's, like whenever he's on the show, I look at his like office and I'm like, that's so much better than what I've got going on.
You think that's great? You should see the rest of the basement.
I'm
Yeah,
sure.
right beyond that door
Yeah.
there. And then on behind that wall, right here, is all of the holy wars and holy heaven tables.
I'm sure. Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll have to make a pilgrimage out sometime. Okay. So, tonight we're going to talk about what makes a battle plan good and what makes a battle plan bad. We're going to take a walk through history. We're going to talk about how battle plans should be designed, why we're missing a trick, how battle plans are letting us down. We're going to talk about all that stuff. But of course, first to the news.
So news. How about that rumor engine?
How about it? It's the new, it's going to be the thingamajiggy. What are they called? It's the incarnate. That's what it is.
The one
Yeah.
that's not coming?
Yeah, they'll still do the incarnate somewhere. Just because there's no season of Warbook doesn't mean we're not going to get another incarnate. We're going to get another one.
Absolutely. I can't. I mean, I want to say it's some type of reptilian thing, but I don't. I think we probably saw all of our Seraphon stuff, but
Sure.
Well-
it looks a little dinosaur-y to me.
So what realm is that then?
I don't know, man. Still Gur? It's just a spidery
No.
thing? It's like a big giant spider thing? It's a spider leg.
No.
And it
can't
goes with the
still
giant
be Gur.
spider face.
That's the problem here.
Sure it can. It can always be Gur, Tom. That's what we've
Like
learned.
it has to be a different incarnate.
It can still be Gur. Gur's the plane. It's just a different part of Gur.
Mm.
Steve, is Vince freezing on you? He's freezing on me.
Yeah, he's
No.
frozen. Nope. Well,
No.
nope. There he goes. He just
No.
moved.
It's you guys, by the way. That's just as a warning, but that's okay. You both froze a minute ago, but we'll get through it. It's all good. Yeah, it's a big incarnate thing. That's what it is. There you go.
He keeps freezing.
hmm He's gonna say it's us.
Yeah,
It
he
is
will.
you.
He will. Let's see if I can shut down some stuff.
Yes. I'm sure it's you because I can see my own upload speed on my side, so I know it's not me.
Well, we are on the same connection, so that could be the problem.
see how when both of you have a problem simultaneously and you're both in the same house, it's kind of easy for me to work out what's going on.
But well, the hilarious thing though is that him and I can interact, and so whatever it is, like him and I on Discord are still interacting. You're just not here anymore.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds
So-
like you've caught up now.
I blame it on you, Vince.
Until
That's
we
fine.
Slow down again.
That's fine. You're good. Just close all your other crap that isn't that. That's the key. Just quick, close everything else. It's fine. All right. That was it. What's next?
Yeah, let's talk about the FAQ.
Let's talk about it. Boom. Let's bring it up. FAQ. We got 4. We've got some corn. We've got some Slanesh. We've got some KO. And we've got some GHB. All right. Let's roll these in order. Corn. Can Karnak set up his dogs within 3 inches of enemy units? Yes, he can.
Of
Karnak.
course, it's Karnak.
It's Karnak.
The leader.
He continues
He's
to be the
good
best.
boy. Yeah, he is the good boy.
Yeah. Goodest of boys. Magor's Fiends, just a clarification on how you get your Flesh Hound. That's fine. Of course, all the Bloodthirsters are single. Stop it. Stop it, you people. Like, oh my god. Some people who are like, well, maybe they intended them to be a unit. No, they did not. They did not. I'm 100% sure of it. They did not, and they did not. And then the allies table was updated accordingly. Okay, fine.
Neat.
Yep. Steve, anything you care about with Khorne? Khorne was pretty like, yeah, okay, cool, to me.
Nope,
All
not
obvious
my
stuff.
army.
Sure, exactly.
My audio better. Some people on this stream said that the audio was a little soft, so I just pumped up the volume a little bit.
You're a little bit. You could go a little higher. You can go a little higher. You can crank that gain on that mic.
Is it any
Sure.
better?
There you go.
Is that a little bit better?
There you go.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, there you go.
Still pretty quiet, Steve. I don't know. I'll speak up.
No, you're good, man. There you go. You hit it right there. You're good.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Then we got Slaanesh. Is the retreat move caused by the Phantasmagoria spell simultaneous with piling in and attacking? Yes. What does this mean? This is not helpful. Ridiculous.
I read that and I was like, yes.
Right? And here's how it works. Here's the designer commentary on this wackadoo ability where you're doing two things at once. What it would effectively mean right now is that it would happen, like it's going to change when it happens based on whose turn it is.
Correct.
Because player priority will
sequenced.
take effect.
Right. It gets sequenced, so the active player is going to resolve first.
Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, and so what that means is that if it's the enemy attacking, they still get to attack before you pile away or retreat. Or if it's your turn, you get to retreat before they pile in an attack.
Yes. Now, I get that, but that is a real in the weeds sort of like rules interpretation. And how did anyone think this was acceptable? So I literally expect to see this updated in the future. This is a nonsense FAQ. Stop that. Don't please stop that. I've said 100 times, could you please stop writing the word yes and no unless the answer literally behooves a yes or no question. Can I do this thing? No. Acceptable answer. Is this how a thing works because of this rule? No. Unacceptable answer. Explain yourself. Okay?
I think they misunderstand the purpose of FAQs.
I really do. As someone who's, writes FAQs, this is not how you write them. It's ridiculous.
It's supposed to explain questions.
Right. Okay. Can I use figureheads of the Dark Prince more than once in each hero phase? No. That was already answered before, so whatever. Bladebringer thing, fine. All these things are fine. But some of these were answered before. They just stayed magenta. How do the things work? I love this one. If I offer a temptation dice to my opponent and they reject the offer, is that temptation dice still lost? Yes. Nice try, the devil. Who's like, no, you just got D3 mortal wounds on tap. Just forever.
Forever. Yep. Forever.
These people,
Delightful.
Man. I'll tell you what. Yes, that's exactly how they intended the army to be built. To just be able to be like, every time someone activates, you do a D3 mortal wounds.
Right.
That's it.
Yep.
Okay. The Invaders battle trait got rewritten for clarity and to limit nonsensory. That's fine. And so, okay, whatever. I didn't think it was that good before. It's not chainable and so on anymore, and whatever.
It's fine.
Yeah, and you can't the clarification again on everything with the Lord of Hubris. I love how much problem the Lord of Hubris causes because of this silly rule he decided to have. Like, this is every Slaanesh book. Because they have to write some wackadoo ability to try to get at Slaanesh. We can't just, write an army that's just, fast and has rend. Which would be a perfectly valid expression of the army. Like, it could just be that. What does this army do? It's a fast glass cannon army with ultra-high rend.
But
Great.
It has to tempt people.
Right. Yeah. Every time we've got to play around with dumb mechanics. Every time. This is what you get. What do you get? Did you want ants, Lana? Because this is how you get ants. Okay? At any rate. All right, cool, fine. Yay, A+. Caradron Overlords. This is all sort of a lot of stuff here. Tom, was there anything in this that caught your attention?
I mean, it's fine.
Okay.
Like, I think it's all still playable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like for being at the top of the meta, it's fine.
Sure.
Like, it's all playable. None of it is egregious. Yes, you know. Yeah.
You can still retreat up into boats, right? Or not retreat, but sorry, redeploy up into boats, right?
Yep.
Nice.
That's my read of it.
Yeah, sure. Okay. All right. They clarified the Tusk Helm thing, which is good. I always thought that was a silly combination. I know there was some argument about it on our original show. I'm happy to see the Tusk Helm thing resolved. Like, no, that person didn't actually charge, hence they didn't make a charge roll. So, that's fine.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of it was just, for me, just matter, like, the types of interpretations you would expect.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, exactly. Most of these were pretty in line with how I think the standard interpretation was. So I didn't really see anything in here that blew my mind. I was also happy to see like the timed charges cleaned up, just so it's like a functional, common sense rule now. So, yep, all works. It's all fine. Okay, good stuff. All right, and then lastly, General's Handbook. Let's talk about it. Here we go. We've all got an opinion on this one. There's only like, you know, really one thing we're going to pay attention to here. Okay?
Sure.
It's down here. Page 46. Pitch Battle Publications 2022-2023, Season 2, Other Publications. Remove Compendium, Monstrous Arcanum, excluding Warhammer Legends Monstrous Arcanum from the list. All right. We finally did it. We ripped off the Band-Aid in an FAQ on, mark the date, May 10th, 2023. The Forge World models are gone. Rip. Press F to pay respects. Okay. So, let's start up here. Steve, I'm gonna go with you first. We're gonna start with you. What do you think about this?
Well, it was going to happen someday.
Sure.
That was obvious. But I don't support the decision so abruptly. And so I am allowing the Monstrous Arcanums to show up at Holy Havoc. We're going to roar, and we're going to roar fun. And then all of those Forge World monsters that I may or may not have in the collection will make an appearance and have special rules on Holy Wars tables. So they're not going away in my realm, in my world. So
that's a great use for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here we go. Steve.
Ragnarok might need a little friend, or maybe you know, the Island of Sorrow table. Could you see him ice skating?
Oh yeah,
sure.
it'd be great. It'd be great. So I'm gonna put you on the spot, and you're gonna hate it, Steve, but I'm gonna do it anyways. So hey, folks, if anybody out there has Forge World models that you're angry about and you don't know what to do with, send them to Steve.
Sure.
We'll take them.
And they'll find a home forever.
Yeah,
on his table.
They'll just become a monster that gets used. Yeah, sure.
Yep.
Yeah,
so if you have a Dread Saurian out there, you can send it to Steve, and it'll make its way onto the Seraphon table.
Mm-hmm. Do you hear that, Anthony? Is he watching? Is he on the screen?
I haven't seen him in the chat yet, but he'll watch at some point. Absolutely. By the way, everybody who pressed F, also press like to pay your respects. That's really easy. So you clicked a button already, so just click that button too.
We're gonna have a couple of these maybe roaming around the Skaven word processing table. So yeah. So so that's my opinion. Sad to see it happen, but you knew it was coming. So I think probably what I'm more sad about than anything else was just I had planned to bring that many years ago to an event pre-COVID, so it never happened. So he just sat over here, just sitting there. It was inevitable.
Yeah. Tom?
Yeah, I mean, yes, everybody saw it coming, right?
I would
Like
hope.
we knew that this was going to happen. Like a couple of years, like about 2 years back, I saw the writing was on the wall, and so I went out and bought the models that I wanted. Right, like I knew that I was going to want these because they were going to disappear off the market, and now they're going to. Um, and I mean, just because they're being removed doesn't mean you can't do something with them. Like, for me, I have my Colossal Squig, and he'll probably find a home in my Gloomspite army as Squignos, right? So, like, you can do conversions with them, and they still have a wonderful home in your army.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's an excellent statement. My statement is, yes, I killed them, and they deserve to die. Like, I've hated these things for years. I think they're just basically all ugly models with Forge World skin that are bad casts. They look like they're like zombie casts from the early 2000s. They never had a place in this world. And sure, they could have published something like 3 months ago that said, hey, in 3 months, we're going to knock them out. It would be the same thing. Like, it would be the same thing. Because at that moment, everybody would know that they're going away. So it doesn't matter if they picked a date, 3 days in the future, 3 months in the future. Like, they should have cut these things back at the changeover into third. Like, I'm sorry, but they're ugly old models that were hard to get a hold of, that were egregiously expensive for bad casts. I'm happy for you if you managed to acquire one, but the vast majority of players did not have the time, money, or capability to get these weird, stupid gotcha models that could show up on the table with rules that nobody's ever freaking seen. Okay. And just like shock them with it. And I see these things should have never been around up to this point. I've been against them forever.
I love my Troll Hag, and you can shut your damn mouth.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's an ugly model. Okay.
I love my Scurvy Keel.
Like,
come on, the land ship
are
converted into a Screaming Bell. Come on. As soon as the Skaven get that special rule where it can just move, like the daughters, like the cauldron, and once that thing's coming back on the table, buddy, and that is probably the most expensive conversion I've ever done.
Oh, sure.
So, I mean, I don't know. I hear you. You're right. You're absolutely right with regards to, well, in all your points.
Don't say that to him.
He's right. I mean, come on. The casts are not the greatest, that's for sure. But a warlord, a Skaven, a Skaven master clan riding the giant. Come on, that should be in our army. Maybe not.
There's a bunch of these concepts that could become really cool figs that should be reintegrated into the army. Like, conceptually, there's a lot of ideas there in those Forge World models that are cool and that I would love to see reimagined as a new sculpt in the army. And if brought back in that way, I would have absolutely no problem with it and celebrate, right? Like, if they reimagined the Troll Hag into a new type of troll in the army in Gits, I would be all for it. I would think that would be the coolest thing since sliced bread. Especially if it was in plastic and an actual good model that didn't cost twice as much for poor quality resin casting. Like, that's it.
You're just so negative. You can't argue against that. I mean, you're just so negative. I love my Troll Hag. I love my Colossal Squig. I love.
It's an ugly model. That's like an all-time banger on ugly models.
You shut your mouth.
It's like, I agree with Haywo. I think that was in the like, you must be joking tier when he rated the models. Like whatever the lowest joke tier was. Okay. And it belonged down there.
Shut your mouth.
You compare that to something like the Mangler Squig, the current Loon Boss on Mangler Squig, one of the most beautiful sculpts that they've ever wrought. The movement, the life, the detail. Like, it's incredible. The Loon Boss on Mangler Squig is like is one of the pinnacles of model making. It's incredible.
I don't like the Mangler Squig sculpt.
That's fine. I'm not talking about liking it or not liking it. Okay, we're not talking about that, Tom. We're talking about respecting the craft of what a model is, the quality of the cast, the way that the lines are and are organized, the movement in the figure. These aren't like or dislike. You can like or dislike whatever the heck you want in life. Okay, this is I am evaluating a thing according to criteria here. You can not like that all you want.
They are poor quality. No, they are poor quality. I mean, the land ship I had to bend back because it was so poorly cast.
Right.
I mean, and when you're paying almost $300 for a model, you expect perfection.
Thank you. So, this is all I'm saying. This is all I'm saying. Okay. Anyway, so they're.
Well, I think what sucks is that people can't use them on the. That's the only. If they want to stop producing them, it's fine. Stop producing it, but I don't like it when they shelve models like that, especially models that are at that price point, Vince. So
sure. I mean, everything eventually has a lifespan, but I do think that the right answer is what Tom said. Now, like, Tom does have the right answer here, to jump back to Tom's defense, which is there's no reason you can't use these models anymore. Most of them are fully proxyable. Like, your Troll Hag should easily suddenly become your dank Trog boss or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Exactly. So, okay. Very funny. All right. At any rate, so that's the FAQ. The third news item. You want me to take the third one? I got the third one if you want.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. Third news item. Hey everybody, TMX is happening about a month from now, June 3rd and 4th, in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. It's Uncle Adam's convention. You can check it out. The link is down in the description. And guess what? Myself, Sam Lenz, and Ninjon are all going to be teaching there this year. We're doing our best. We're gonna to have some fun classes. We're gonna play some fun games. We're gonna be hanging out painting, and you can sit around and paint with us, even if you're not taking one of the classes. It's gonna be a grand old time. So check it out. Links in the description. You can buy tickets to classes. You can buy tickets to TMX. And we hope to see a bunch of you up there in Oshkosh on June 3rd and 4th. Should be a beautiful time. Okay. So, yeah, there you go. Link below. All right. Good stuff. Let's talk about some pick of the week. That's what we're on to now. Tommy, what do you want to share with everybody? I'll let you go first this week.
Wow, I feel so honored. And it's not because Vince is trying to catch me out without an actual recommendation, because he knows I have one. And that's going to be, I do. It is AOS, no, not AOS shorts.
Coach?
I love it.
Totally.
I'm ready. I have one prepared. I don't remember it.
You teed it high and you just shanked it, buddy.
Yeah.
I was like, I got this one. Woo!
Way off the fairway.
Yeah. Yes, AOS Coach. I loved his video with Basil talking about Coalesce Seraphon. So if you are a fan of the new army that they just created with all these beautiful sculpts, you can check out the that video. And good stuff.
Very nice. Steve, what would you like to share with everybody?
I'd like to share a very important video from a beacon of intelligence in this game from Halo. And it's his video that he did on mastering the double, or how to play Age of Sigmar. And it's a brilliant video. It's really, really great for all you people who hate the priority roll. You need to watch that video. It's absolutely amazing. And it's the best 20 minutes. I think it's around 20 minutes. Best 20 minutes you'll ever spend watching the video. Brilliant stuff. In typical Halo fashion.
Agreed,
the man is
on
master.
all counts. Yes.
He is a master.
An absolute pillar, a Chad of the community. Fantastic stuff.
Yes.
I fully second this recommendation.
Yeah, many athletes should watch that. Send it to him. Send him a link.
Well, no, what's funny is he's embraced that. He has embraced that thing since the show. He talked about in a video. He talked about embracing what Tom told him. Okay.
Which is always
give it away.
Always give it away.
Assume, like, follow what we call the red hot chili pepper strategy, totally. Right? Which is you always play as though you're going to give it away, and then you give it away unless you're going to literally win the game that turn.
Right.
And, you know, I watched him play against Nurgle with his Soulblight, a list he had formerly had some trouble with. Now, partially, he's playing a ramped-up new Soulblight book, and that book is pretty strong. And secondly, he had the guy who cuts through ward saves at the head of the list, but also he followed that advice and just, I mean, demolished the Nurgle player on stream. I felt pretty good watching it because I like watching Nurgle get the living, you know, snot beat out of him. It's always a good time. Okay. So, my pick will be for our buddies over at Cult of Paint. Great people over there, friends of the show, all around, and stellar human beings. They have a cool video on the coolest stuff from Golden Demon that didn't win. Basically, you know, other things that they liked, highlighting some other minis. This I cannot support enthusiastically enough. They are all men of excellent taste, and they highlight some really cool models in there. And at the same time, I want to shout out to GW, because this week GW put up the part 1 of the commended entries article. So, was this myself and Trevarian and Ninjon complaining about this loudly? The fact that they take pictures of all of this stuff and then don't use them, even though it's the most obvious article that would get that, like, obviously would garner tons of clicks, and they're just like wasting value, like free marketing of some of the best painters in the world, painting their models to an incredibly high quality and then deciding not to use those incredible photographs for free advertisements in one of the stupidest marketing decisions that they've made historically. Did they finally realize how dumb that was? I don't know. I don't know if we had an effect, but either way, they did it. They shared it out, and it was awesome. I love seeing all those commended entries, man. And what it made me look at was go, my God, there were so many good entries at that UK Golden Demon. I was just blown away by everybody's stuff. And that's, like, it was such a great read, because I wasn't just looking at the top 3, but I got to see so much more. Please continue that. And I can't wait for, like, part 2 and 3 of the article or whatever. So, absolute proper celebration of the artist who put so much effort in, sharing it out. A+, good work, GW. Better late than never. Okay. So, with that, let's move on. Let's talk about some hobby time, gentlemen. Steve, what are you working on there?
Well, I'm working on one of your favorite model ranges, Malifaux.
Okay.
I'm working on my my Neverborn crew. I got a game this weekend with a good friend, Joe Peck, who's been training me up in the ways of Malifaux, and I've been enjoying the game. So I figured time to dive back into painting. I'm finally getting settled into my new job. I was on a painting break for about 6 weeks, which is pretty unusual for me. But I just didn't have the energy or the muster to do anything. And so that's what I'm doing now, is a palette cleanser before I jump right back into all this stuff that's over my shoulder.
Nice. No, I quite like Malifaux figures. I just I quite don't like assembling Malifaux figures.
Oh,
there's a
yep.
Yeah.
That's yeah. No, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. There's a
you have to have a little bit of you're it's not fun.
No.
It's painful.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
painful.
Being in 28mm with the way they slice those sprues up is painful.
Yeah, and then I'm seeing all types of seams, and I don't care.
Sure.
That's my that's the new saying here. I'm not going to care.
Totally fair.
It's Malifaux.
Tom, you worked on anything recently? I mean, obviously you're traveling this week, so I imagine your hobby time has been somewhat limited, but I know you're also at Steve, so you could have brought something and just worked with his stuff.
I did ask if he was bringing an army so we could play or do some hobby.
I hung drywall this week.
Okay.
So I hobbied on my house.
This excuse is just only going to go so far, Tom. I'm just saying.
It is, and I have a friend in the Leston area that's getting ready to head out. He is moving, and so I'm going to be joining them for some games and events in the coming week or two. So,
gotcha. Okay.
So it's the plan. It's on the calendar. It's just one among many things. So.
Glad to hear it. For my hobby time, I have been rocking and rolling on this bust right here. So this is Northern Wind from Big Child Creatives. One of my favorite busts of all time.
There's some big skulls there.
Yes, they are. Like, the skulls that hang around her belt are ridiculously oversized. Like, she is chopping off some big heads. So yeah, she's obviously still mid progress, but I'm super happy with how some things have turned out so far. I am just loving everything about the journey with models like this. So if everybody can see the skin tone and stuff that's on her, a little booty shot there. So that skin tone, okay, was made using these colors right here, which is a purple, a deep yellow, a bright yellow, a pink, and a pale green. And that got me to all of those colors. I'm just enjoying playing around with skin tones in a lot of different ways, playing with different color palettes to get to skin, and to mix new and interesting tones and shades and stuff like that. Just having a lot of fun. And like I've been focusing a lot recently on models that have like a lot more skin, and I have a lot more queued up because I love painting skin. And I really, really like using unusual colors, like starting from purple yellow together. Like specifically, this is a pure violet and a well, what yellow pigment is this? PY 170 is the yellow that's being used there as the pigment. And it's just that it produces such an interesting, rich sort of base, warm brown tone. You put those two together that you can then push around with the pinks and the greens and get into like interesting places. So anyways, it's been tremendous fun, and yeah, just keep working on that. So that's what I'm doing now on that bust.
Sounds a little bit like doing oil painting and doing your underpainting in brown tones to get all your shading and then building up from there.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. It's a lot of exploring that similar stuff, right?
Yeah. Once you get that technique down, it opens up a gateway of exploration.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And then like working with the leather, and I was like, okay, well, what do I want to do for the leather? And let's get to some natural brown tones in a different way, right? There's lots of ways, obviously, through different paints you can get to an interesting brown tone, and so on and so forth. And playing with textures and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's just been like a lot of fun. And yeah, so that's what I've been doing. Okay, but that's not what we're here to talk about. What we're here to talk about today is we are here to talk about battle plans. What makes them good? What makes them bad? Good and bad elements. Okay. So, I have gone through the history books, as it were, the sacred tomes, the historical artifacts, pulled a selection of different battle plans to talk through, as well as some other things. I've also borrowed one of Steve's he uses for his holy events to talk about it. And what we're really going to get to here is I want to talk about the different audiences for these things and why I do feel we're missing a trick with battle tomes right now. Or battle plans, I'm sorry. Not battle tomes. All right. So, overview. Let's lay down some fundamentals. So first, they're an essential element of the game, the battle plan. They are how you experience the game. Period. Right? I don't think AOS is a game that should be played without a battle plan. Like, it is a fundamental part of it. There's no sort of core loop outside of that, right? It is meant to be experienced through the scenario. Right? Now, what that thing could consist of, as we'll see, could be a million different things, right? It could be just kill your enemy. That's it. Like, it doesn't have to have objectives. Doesn't have to have anything else. It could be anything. But that is the lens through which you're going to see it and what's going to flavor and color your experience of the game. And historically, over the 8 years of AOS, battle plans have had wildly different elements that aren't well aligned for the specific purpose of that battle plan. And what I mean by that is, in my mind, battle plans largely fall into 4 categories. You've got your competitive event-based battle plans, which all need to be relatively, we'll talk about the various elements of them, but they should be relatively straightforward, minimize randomness, right? And sort of like other sort of negative elements. They should rotate largely on a particular axis that you can fight over, that skill tests, yeah. And they should have relatively constrained scoring, so that people can't just like, oh, it's bottom of 2, I'm up by 30, you can't catch me, even if you play for the rest of the game. Okay. And that hasn't always been the case. Sometimes we've seen those get broken. Then we've got what I call general use battle plans. Okay, so this is stuff that doesn't need to be on tight rails, that could use other things. General use is what I'm falling into, like Triumph and Treachery, multiplayer stuff, siege battles, generic, you want to play a game with your friends, it's not a competitive event, you just want to do something different or have fun, right? Like this wide swath of just all of the things, all the ways we could explore a battle plan, right, in that regard. But there's still a basic battle plan. Then you've got narrative battle plans, which in my mind are a different thing, because narrative battle plans are almost by their very nature heavier. You have to introduce like a lot more crap. Like you just do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Narrative is heavier than match play. It just is.
Love it. I love it.
Right?
Just stuff. There's stuff in those.
There's just got to be stuff because you're trying to tell a story. Like there's some kind of rails you're trying to keep everybody on that is that story, and so you got to put down those extra elements. And then the final category in my mind is like starter beginner battle plans. This is the kind of stuff that should feel like a beginner battle pack. They should look a little like event battle plans, but be like potentially simpler. But those have the tightest alignment. Okay, what do you think of my 4 categories there, Steve? What do you think? You think I'm in a general area here?
Oh, I think it's perfect. I think it's great. Nothing to add.
Okay.
Spot on.
Cool. Tom?
Yeah, no, I think that it's probably accurate.
Cool. Well, good. And the key here is certain elements work better in certain categories of these battle plans and work better for certain intended audiences, right?
Yep.
And we're going to see examples where where this has been like tragically misaligned in the past. And at a deeper level, there was misalignment in the past, but there was also more experimentation, and we've lost some of that in the past couple years. I don't have the same breadth of battle plans available to me now, like current edition battle plans to me now. I mean, I can still reuse the old ones, and sometimes do. A lot of them still work, and that's fine. But in a particular year, I got like 6 of this certain type, and it's like, well, we've played this 30 times. How many more times should I play them? Like competitive players are over here getting, a dozen new every year at least, right? Where's mine? If I don't want to, if I'm not willing to be limited to that event, right? And don't really feel like writing my own. Although you could go the Steve route and write your own. That is true. Okay. Cygnus had a good point there as well. Yeah, I really think we need low points battle plans that could fall under beginner, but it'd be great to have solid competitive battle plans for lower points games. Yeah, no, that's totally fair. Like something with it being designed with the concept that this is a 1,000 point or a 750 point battle plan. So it's built to the smaller table, the number of objectives is adjusted, and like so on and so forth, right? Yeah. Yep. Jonathan Straw said, I'd like to hear your take on the open play battle plan generator. I quite like the chaos that can be made by rolling dice. Some generate feel bad, don't get me wrong, but no one ever talks about it. Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is because they labeled it open play stop. And people stopped reading.
Yeah.
That's the issue. I don't disagree with you. There's some fun stuff in there. Go ahead, Tom.
I love the open play card, like the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Like as a concept, like it's something that like my family has used a ton in household games. Like it is like I don't run like when we would play, we only would use that deck because it generates the right complexity and the right kind of like engagement that I was looking for. That's not overly complex. It's not overly difficult. Now they haven't printed one of those decks in 2 editions, right? Like that was first edition that they did that for. And so I think that there could be some interesting opportunities. Like I can imagine a world where they create like a core scenario deck.
Sure.
and then have like a narrative expansion pack, and have like a, like where they could lean into this element of like random, like, but they would need to think deeply about design, particularly around how those things interface. And I just don't know if that's a priority.
Yeah, well, whatever they do, I'm sorry, Steve, I just want to say this real quick. Please don't call it open play, because you've poisoned that term in everybody's mind. That's the issue. I'm sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, no,
I was disappointed that they didn't expand upon the deck when it first came out. I mean, what was it, first edition, second edition when that came out?
First.
I have it on the bookshelf by the gaming table, and we still will use it to this day from time to time, just to throw things out there. And we even use it as a way to experiment for our table. We'll even throw it out there once in a while just to see. I really don't know if they're passionate enough about it as much as they say they like the narrative aspect or the open play aspect, or however they define it, Vince. I was surprised they just kind of dropped the ball on it, let it go. I thought it was something that I was really stoked about.
I mean, related to that, I think there's probably a really interesting opportunity to do a modular scenario design for narrative, and that actually dovetails in with map play. Yeah. And I don't think that they've put kind of the design energy towards that, but it's surprising to me that they've never explored that for narrative play, to really build out scenarios that are both modular and yet are conducive to like narrative structures.
Sure. Sure. Okay. And yeah, the die is cast at 40K's new edition has some elements of the deck system for a battle plan. It could see a resurgence. I agree, actually, with that. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the potential elements of a battle plan, because I think even this is understated. Most battle plans that we currently play with are derivative of the GHB. Now, that's basically what we get. Right now, theoretically, we're going to get some new battle plans in these books coming over the summer, the Harbingers, whatever, the 4-book series that is the transition out of AOS 3 into AOS 4 next year, right? And my answer, Sean, would be yes, absolutely, that would still be a thing. You'd still buy the GHB even if you had a wide variety of experiences with the cards, because events have a very different set of requirements than what these things generate. Like, events need predictability, practicability, stability, right? Like, things need to exist within a fairly tight design space, a confined space, to be a good event battle plan. Mm-hmm. Okay? Like a tournament battle plan, I should say. Whereas these can go way wider. Right? Okay. When you look at the things we've gotten recently, it's mostly like objectives. That's it. And just like, and something interesting will happen with the objectives, right? Like, you'll score some extra points with one of the objectives in some way, an extra point or two, which, by the way, is fine for a tournament battle plan. I'm not at all lambasting that. Like, that's fine. Okay. But that is hardly the whole world of what could be in these battle plans. There could be interaction with terrain. You don't need to know what the terrain is to say interaction with terrain. Like, the battle plan itself could have terrain rules written to interact with it on it, right? It's just like randomly, like, I'll give you a sample. There could be a rule in the battle plan that says randomly generate some piece of, randomly choose one piece of terrain on your table that is not wholly within any deployment zone, right? That thing, if claimed, after it is claimed, acts like an objective, and it scores one additional point if you blah, 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 or something like that. Okay, whatever. That can be a good or bad rule you dislike or like. I don't care. My point is, that's a perfectly valid extrapolation of a way you could write a battle plan, right?
Yeah, their battle plans that's a more immersive strategy there, right? So it brings you into the tabletop. The terrain is not just, it becomes interactive, and that is very much more appealing to me than the static plans of what we have right now, where it's this random point on the battlefield and you're fighting over some random point.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, it's shocking to me that each battle plan seems to treat the terrain as though it's completely flat, empty space, when we know there will be terrain there. Like, the battle pack tells you to set up terrain, right? Now you don't know what kind of terrain or size or quality or anything like that individual people have, and it will vary wildly. But who cares if my terrain is like 2 soda pop cans taped together, standing upright, and I'm saying those are grain silos? You know, that's still a piece of terrain, right? If I'm just referencing like, choose a piece of terrain, it does this thing.
Right.
Like, people aren't playing on flat boards with nothing on them, right? Like, that's just not the experience. So I don't know why we're not even using, like, this button is perfectly valid and just waiting over there to be pressed, and we aren't pressing it. Right? Schemes, goals, battle tactics, grand strategies. Now, I understand you might say, but yes, Vince, but there's already battle tactics and grand strategies. And I said to you, I say, you are correct. But they're not part of the battle plan, but they could be. And they've done this before. Season of War Thondia has inbuilt battle tactics that you can only achieve in a particular battle plan.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like, it actually lists new tactics for you. That could be a thing. Right?
Yeah.
It could be a new grand strategy. I wrote schemes and goals to make them also more generic. Schemes is a thing we created. Goals that just mean it like generically. There's all sorts of things that could be in here.
Yep.
We'll see a couple examples of this because they have used this sort of thing in the past to really good effect. We're going to look at some of my favorite battle plans from the best GHB ever published, which was GHB 2017. If you don't own that one, find it in your secondhand store. It's the GOAT. So there we go. Random events. This is it. There it is. Absolutely. The old softback. Yeah. Random events is another thing that could happen. This easily drifts into real feel bad territory when executed poorly. And so I think a lot of people are sort of predisposed to not like this. By that, what I mean is, like, here's an easy example. A storm rolls in and visibility is now limited to 9 inches and no ranged weapons work beyond 9 inches, right? Or something like that. It's like, oh God, kill me now. Right? Thanks for shutting off my entire army. Right?
Warp fog.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Steve, you use plenty of random events in your battle plans, right?
Right. Yeah,
but they don't all have to be punishing like that.
Sure, right. No, they don't. They don't all have to be.
Yeah.
That's true. Very true.
Like, a random event, and by the way, this gets used a little bit, but often only with objectives. Like, you randomly figure out one of the objectives and it's now worth a bonus point in this round. That's a random event.
Yep.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's being tightly tied to the objectives. It doesn't necessarily need to be.
No.
Right.
No. It could be like damage on quadrants of the table. Like,
exactly.
Right. Like there was an earthquake occurrence, or like lava suddenly bubbling up from underground.
Damage in a quadrant. Bonuses to do something in a quadrant. Like, the spirit of rage raises up and everybody in that quadrant gets +1 to hit for in melee combat that battle round, right? Or something like that. Like, there's friend and foe. Like, there's quite literally almost infinite permutations of this, right?
Yeah. That would have been something that would have been really great. That kind of playing in that design space would have been fabulous for like battle lines drawn.
Sure.
Right? I mean, that's like on the low end of my list of battle plans, and I'm not trying to veer us into the discussion on that, but it's a boring battle plan for me. And I don't find that one compelling in any way. But if in the quadrants, I think we'll probably do that when Ethan and I roll up next. We'll probably do something like that where the random things might happen, some kind of environmentally.
Yeah, exactly.
Would add a lot of flavor to that battle plan for me.
Yep. This can add so much to it because it's another element of, like, surprise and suspense.
Right.
Where you know it's coming. It might happen anytime, but you don't know exactly when it's going to happen. Right. So on and so forth. Okay. Goals for specific models. Do a thing with a monster. Do a thing with a hero. Do a thing with a battle line unit. Like, these could be written in and worth points or whatever. Right? Again, they have done this on occasion in very certain types of battle plans. And these most of these types of things might not, like the random events thing should never show up in a tourney or event battle pack. It just shouldn't. Tourney pack specifically here, like traditional competitive tournament pack. It's not appropriate for that, most likely. And that's fine. Again, I'm not saying all of these need to be used in everything. I'm saying there's a lot of design space here. We're just letting these fields lie fallow. Right? We're not plowing these fields at all. And I don't know why. When with War Scrolls, we're getting into like the nitty and the gritty of every nook and cranny and corner of design space we can explore in the game. And then we got battle plans over here, and we're just tightening the aperture.
Well, the reason why I think is exactly what you said is because it has to do with the permutations of played and what they're actually like. When they're printing new battle plans, they're doing it with a purpose, and that audience that in mind generally is the competitive, the competitive audience with the GHB. And so there's no incentive to explore design outside of delivering repeatable competitive, from a design standpoint, like they have a very, very specific target in mind. Right, with those types of products.
But that assumes that's your largest cohort that is going to buy this. And I just don't think that's true.
No. It's not about it being it's about products. Like, what products are you putting these in, right? The only product that they're selling, that they're putting regular, like, that is a regular part of their core distribution are GHBs.
At the moment, that is true. The past GHBs had more battle plans for different types of events, and they were clearly labeled and categorized those different types. There's no reason the General's Handbook... The General's Handbook should have a clear, concise delivery method for the competitive event battle plans of the year. Agreed. That is one of its primary purposes. But it's not the only thing it's there for. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Well, what's missing is what the beauty of what 2017 gave us. Yep. In that General's Handbook, we had Triumph and Treachery, we had Open Play, we had the battle plans for Match Play. Everything we get now from the GHB, I think that's part of the problem. We look at this as if it was this for us, for the people who've been around for the longest, and it's not.
Right.
This is essentially just the Match Play section of what we had back in 2017, and they haven't invested the time or the energy to deliver those themed battle plans, those battle plans that exist outside the competitive scene. That's not there, or if it's there, you have to go looking for it in other publications.
Right, and I agree. Tournament players buy rules. I agree, which is great. But I think lots of players will buy books if you give them a good quality book. Okay, like this could be in that GHB, and then a bunch of people would be like, I'd pick it up and I'd use all this other stuff too. It could also be a battle plan book that they do. Like they're always looking for more books to sell. How about a fun battle plan book with like?
Well, I'd buy it. I would buy it in a heartbeat
for different types of games that really fully explores this. You know what I mean? Like there are options here.
Isn't it true though? The majority of the players are not tournament players. Isn't that
a vast majority of people never go to a tournament? Yes.
Right, but yet this is what we are given, right, as a community. And so when we sit down and we teach somebody the game, a neighbor, whoever, this is what we use. This is what we'll reference from, and we'll use this. And it's a missed opportunity, right? They have an opportunity to make more publications. They have an opportunity to sell more things and to a greater audience.
Agreed.
It could go.
Totally agreed. I want to hit on what Martin just said here, which is I hope we get stuff like boarding actions and combat patrol. Both are not matched play and are taking off in 40K, right? When you look at that kind of audience, right? That's them creating new audience with their product offerings. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Part of what you can do with product is create new audience.
Right.
Like that's a classic element of product management, right? It's the if you build it, they will come thing. That's literally what it is, right? And so there's just room here. Deliver it an existing thing or make a new thing. I don't care. But there's got to be ways to deliver more and serve a wider audience of people who want a more varied experience. That's it. Right? It has like, it cannot be the 12 battle plans a year is it. Like, that's it. We've reached the end, and this keeps everybody in the community happy. Is that really true? I just can't believe that.
Well, it is. Well, I mean, it is true. That's what we got.
Well, yeah, it's what we've got. I'm just saying, I don't think it's that. I don't think they're capitalizing on their market. What I'm saying is, I think they're leaving money on the table and underserving their audience.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. I agree.
And so, okay.
I mean, I think it boils down to audiences, right?
Sure. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Ultimately, right? That's why my sort of my categories were user focused, right? What's the persona that's going to use it, as much as it was anything else, right?
Right.
Because I do think that's the axis it revolves around, right? Like, who is extracting the value? What's the persona, right?
Yep.
So, and then there's one more thing here that only got used a couple of times, but Steve uses all the time. This is we just literally talked about it at the beginning of the show. So thank you, Steve, for teeing this one up, which is additional models on the table. The classic published example of this is the Chained Colossus, which we will be looking at today. But if you've ever gone to a Holy event, I mean, there are multiple tables with models on them that you use and that have rules and stuff. So yeah, I mean, like, I loved Chained Colossus. I thought it was like the coolest battle plan because neat. It's a free purple sun. It's fun, right? Okay. All right. So that's exactly it. The alignment of elements and audience is important, right? Lots of random elements in a competitive battle plan will be bad for a competitive event. And that's where I have here, looking at you, Relocation Orb, right? Like, Tom classically hates this battle plan so much. He hates it. He cannot stand it. Okay.
I mean, I liked it.
May have lost. I mean, I'm not only going to blame it to this, but it was the final scenario in a round 5 of Adepticon on table 2, and it bounced the wrong way.
Sure. And that's just it. There are some battle plans, like whether you agree Relocation Orb is one or not, it's fine. I don't care. There are things that sometimes show up in some of these battle plans that are what I call oops, you lose.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And like, there is a cohort of players who don't mind those, who like those kind of random elements, and that's fine. I don't mind. I do not begrudge battle plans existing with oops, you lose in them.
Correct.
But they should not, but they are not appropriate for competitive events.
Right. Let alone round 5.
Yeah, sure.
That's uphill bad.
There you go. So, all right, I want to discuss the elements of battle plans and where they line. So from this point forward, we're going to jump into specific battle plans. We're going to talk about what they do right, what they do wrong, the audience they're intended to serve. Okay? And we're going to extrapolate. Okay, enhance. All right, here we go. And before I do that, anything else we want to say here on this? Steve, any other thoughts? Did I any other things you want to drop here?
No. One more thing you mentioned earlier. You talked about the persona. I don't want to go too long into this, but it feels like they don't have those clearly defined in their plan, right? Do you feel that way?
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I have. So, like, obviously, I am a product manager by trade, right? That's what I do, like, professionally. And in our group, we have a persona Bible. Right?
Sure.
Of, like,
customer persona, right? Who's your persona? And you have your marketing persona. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I do the same.
These are the buyers, and this is what they want, and this is their daily tasks, and this is where they extract value, and this is the things that frustrate them, and so on and so forth, right? Like, it's a pretty standard sort of product management and marketing activity across the industry to do this kind of thing. It's not like it's something special.
Right. It's not.
Like, if you sell a product, you should have an idea of who your buyers are, right?
Yeah. It's like an SOP, right? Standing operating procedure.
Right. And so, that coming from a background of legal, that means something different to me, but I understand what you mean. It's more a thing you don't want to show up. But
yeah, right.
But like the nature of the way that they have made products either tells me they don't, or they've decided that like one of those personas is the most important, or like enough people act like that persona that they're just going to use that as a standee for their audience.
Squeaky wheel persona.
Sure.
Who complains the most gets the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail. My apologies.
That's all good. It's a great point. Okay. Let's jump into some specifics here. Let's talk about the prize of Gallet or Gallet or Galit.
Gallet.
Talk about that prize of Gallet. So it's funny too, because beforehand when I shared this out on Twitter, somebody, I don't know if you're watching the show right now. If you are a person watching the show right now, you should hit like and subscribe and do all those things. It's fun. We're talking about battle plans. It's fun. That's your objective right now. You can earn a victory point by pressing the like button. Oh, don't worry. I'll know. I'll keep track of your victory points. At the end of the show, we'll score them up. So I think the prize of Gallet is like one of the 10 out of 10 battle plans of all time. Like I love it. I think it's truly fun. I do think it's not like absolutely perfect. Of course, there are still challenges to it. And it's funny because one of the tweets was like, hot take, was like, Prize of Gallet is actually an okay battle plan at best because of these reasons. And like, I get it. I don't disagree with any of the person's reasons, but I don't think they're that strong. I think they're just, every battle plan has some downsides. This is like a downside, right? I love this one because the way it encourages the interaction, the way it screws with your turn selection, the victory points remain quite tight. It becomes very interesting to control. Yes, it does have an alpha bunkering challenge, of course, that is there. But nonetheless, I really think this plan is great. Good deployment, good spread, like 5 objectives that eventually become active, obviously starting at 1. I love everything about this one. To me, this is like the perfect event, competitive tournament battle plan. Right?
Yep.
Now, because when I look at this, it's like it's going to keep the scores relatively tight. It's very skill testing in how you're making decisions about which turn you're picking, and then that's allowing you to activate certain ones and so on and so forth, right? And how you spread your forces to then guard and defend those things.
Movement.
Yep.
Critical in this one.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's critical in the game, but there are some battle plans where it doesn't really impact. But this one, movement is big.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Strong incentive to not take the double turn into 2 because it can often just screw you really hard and make it so your opponent just kind of picks up an easy win. If you can't literally shatter their whole army, then they can pick up an easy win. Like it's really interesting to me how this one plays out.
What I like about this one too, with the scoring, you mentioned the scoring, Vince. I like it because it's easy to keep track of, right?
Yep.
It's not bookkeeping dependent. It allows you to focus more on strategy, on what your models are doing, what matchups you're going to go after. You're not really focusing on, okay, I got to score X amount of points here. I love that. I'd like to see more of that type of scoring, actually.
Yep. I agree. Not a lot of fiddly tracking. Where it's like, oh, wait, hold on. Bonus point here and here and here. And that's sort of 2 things. One, there's a downside to those because of bad bookkeeping and people forget. Tom, even in a serious tournament, let's be honest here for a moment, okay? You and I have played plenty of tournaments.
Yep.
Okay. How many times at a serious tournament where we're rolling up, let's call it in the top 10% of tables, okay?
Sure.
Does somebody say, wait a minute, hold on, did I score that? Right? Or like, you know what I mean? Like forgets to mark a victory point or is unsure if they scored something correctly because some of the battle plans have had fiddly scorekeeping.
Yep. Or did you remember to? Yep. That question.
Exactly.
Yep.
So it's not like, and if that's happening amongst what is theoretically, I suppose, the better players that are at the event, or at least the people who are at the top tables, it's happening everywhere.
Hey, it's happening. I'm a submariner. It's happening at those lower tables.
Right.
Well, the key is at the higher tables, it's happening amongst players who are trying to have clean play and remind one another where it's not going to influence the game, because assuming that everybody's like playing with intent to, to be clear and concise.
Well, I think the other thing is
tables that may not be happening.
Well, I think that it's the pressure of time too.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
The pressure of slow play, the pressure of getting your 5 turns in your 3 hours, making sure you're doing all of that. And that's why a scoring setup like this is so desired when you're in tournament play, because it allows it. It's not that additional burden of the bookkeeping and compare in when you're looking up at that clock and you're thinking, okay, and then you're rushing to get your stuff done.
Yep. Completely agreed. Like, that's another thought that I haven't mentioned yet, but is really important to a competitive battle plan, right? The more fiddly the thing is, the more complex, the more anything, then the more likely you are not to be able to finish the game within the allotted 2.5, 2 hours 45, 3 hours, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
Right? And like when you got 5 games in a weekend, you gotta get them games done. Like the TO is gonna call dice down, and that's it, folks. Like end.
Yep.
Coming from being a narrative event in TO, and then when I go to play in a competitive event, it's really hard for me to get my mind in that space, because it's a completely different. You're not always going to get your 5 turns in in a narrative event, and so like when I come up and it's this style of battle plan, it just kind of like helps me orient back into the competitive scene. Because my whole life is the narrative.
Sure. So to me, this is like and to answer, I saw you, Tom, you already answered Poxus in the comment. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Tyler wrote War Coda, right? And that was trying to build on what was they're doing here. My answer ultimately of, why leave this as GW, why not do this ourselves as well, is 1, we have, and 2, why not both? I want GW to put out some of the best stuff, and like obviously we've been more than happy to produce content for people in the past, right? So I think we can do both. I'd love to see the mothership also joining in, is basically the answer. It's easier. They have a wider reach than I do. So like when I look at this, what I see is everything that a tournament competitive battle plan should be: concise, skill testing, controlled scoring, nothing fiddly, easily happening within time, right? Solid deployment that works well on tournament tables. Another thing you don't want to overwrite. Like, it's different when you're playing at home on your table and it's just you and, one person, versus when you're in a tournament and you're all butt to butt down a, 30-foot row of tables. Right?
Right. Yep.
War Coda. We did a show on it a while back. We actually dug into those. So if you go back in the playlist, you'll find the War Coda episode and the 4 battle plans he made and play tested and all that. So like this to me is the template for how you want to run this, right? And this is what tournament battle plan should look like. But I also think this is the least interesting because that's not its job.
Right.
What I don't mean that in any negative way. It sounds like it's. I really need to reword that, because what I said has like a lot of negative connotations. What I meant by that is there's nothing that is that the playability of this is going to be like wildly different time to time. That's not what you wanted to have happen. You wanted to give a consistent experience. That's the whole point, right? So again, align to the audience that wants a competitive tournament event, competitive battle plan, wants this. This is it, right? So, okay, cool. Easy. We got that one down. All right. Let's talk about Season of War. I don't know if we'll ever get another Season of War book. I guess maybe in 4.0 at this point. Another...
Well, I mean, realistically, maybe the Season of Wars, because everything is in a certain realm. Sure. Like all of Season 3 is in Gur, right?
Yeah.
So then your Season of War is Thondia, because it's all tied to Gur. Yep. And so if that's the case, then you're going to get one of these once every 3 years with each edition.
That's fine. I'm okay with that.
which would mean statistically, you know where we're going next, right? Like on the numbers, where we're probably going to end up.
Ulgu.
Yeah, Ulgu.
Yeah.
Because Skaven have to be launch box.
Correct.
That's going to happen.
We know that.
We've determined
and by we
that.
know that, I mean we're willing it into reality. Yes, correct.
Yeah, exactly. We're manifesting it.
Yes.
And so we know that it's going to be that because we're going to have Skaven, the new clan Eshin in that launch box. Like that's good. And so ninjas are in darkness. So it's going to be Ulgu.
Yeah.
Right. And we're going to get Malarian. So like that's like, which is all Ulgu. Like that's why that has to be the next edition.
Yeah, my whole wall just off screen is just a vision board full of pictures of Skaven that I've like photoshopped onto launch boxes and stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you all heard it here first. We manifested this, so when it happens, you'll know the power of our will.
Mm-hmm. Sure. All right. Now here's why I want to talk about the Season of War battle plan. I don't know how many people actually played through these. I did. I thought they were pretty fun. Like me and a buddy played through these over a course of a couple weeks. And had a pretty fun time. One of the interesting things is how attacker and defender works. You don't necessarily have to use those rules if you're using them as a chain experience. Then like who loses and who wins becomes the attacker defender. So that's kind of an interesting little rub there, right? But to me, the actual interesting thing about this one is a couple of things. One, Tom, you notice the complete lack of objectives on that map?
It's great.
They're not there. So no objectives. That's number one, right? Instead, you got other goals. And here, there are battle tactics that are, again, just built-in part of the battle plan, right? Occupy and repel. Where you're, like, it's this push and pull, obviously, that you're trying to accomplish. All right. Now, there's also Season of War specific battle tactics here. But these two are specific to this battle plan. Right? Now, there's also another little thing where, like, the faction terrain, the defender, you're allowed to use your faction terrain, and the attacker gets a free command point. Again, these are just little more interesting things that could happen. Right? That could be elements of this, right? And your victory is achieved not through the scoring mechanism; it's done through controlling quadrants.
Yep.
Right. And then the battle tactics present you with your tiebreaker. But these could still have points. You could hold quadrants and score. You could use non-objective things. We'll talk. Well, you'll see some other ways we could do this later. But what I liked about this one is this is like narrative light battle plan. Okay. Where it's got some additional structures on it, but it still fits on a page. There's not too much extra weight here.
No, right? There's not. It's good.
Right.
Yeah.
To me, this is a good example of like, you could use a lot of these kinds of things in outside of narrative battle plans, and I would welcome them. Mission specific, battle plan specific battle tactics. That'd be great. An interesting bonus or Benny for quote unquote the attacker or the defender. Right? Player A, player B. Right? Again, minor. Should be minor stuff, not huge stuff. Just interesting things. Right? But I thought there was lessons here that were applicable beyond. Yeah, this is like diet narrative. Yes, exactly. This is narrative 0 or something, right? Yeah. Okay. What do you guys think about this? Is this the kind of elements you think could be picked up and used in other stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I like the faction terrain component of this. It's great. If you don't have faction terrain, you get to choose a piece. I mean, on my tables, that's fantastic. You choosing the Oak of the Ages because it doesn't have a storage bin. It's always there. It's always available, and you're plopping that bad boy down on the table. And it's just pretty awesome. I like the push pull component of it in the battle tactics. I think it's nice. It feels like something that every army could achieve to some degree. it doesn't have that kind of feel bad moment. I like it. I think it works. It works well, and it works well because you have it works better than that other scenario we talked about earlier, where we have the 4 quadrants. You could actually use this battle plan where we talked about earlier in the show about adding in some environmental impact in the quadrants.
Sure. Absolutely.
And it doesn't necessarily affect the core tactics of the battle plan. And it's a canvas that you have the ability to paint your own picture on it and still not affect the core rule of the battle plan, the rules of the battle plan, which is what I like about it.
Agreed. Tom?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is I like the asymmetrical element that is the dominant warlord. That like the ability for one of the players to be rewarded in this really subtle way,
sure,
but meaningful, right?
Yeah, because they also had to take the first turn in this.
Right. Yeah, and so I think that small trade-offs like that could be, from a design standpoint, something that could be like utilized to create interesting asymmetrical play experiences.
Yep. That aren't like super heavy. It doesn't all have to be, we talk about asymmetrical play experiences, and the thing that always comes up is like siege battles, right? It's like, oh, you get 1,000 points, you get 2,000 points. It's like, man, not everything needs to be that extreme.
No, right.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. You can play around in this space without just like completely putting the game on tilt. Right? Like, and still get the feeling of that happening. So yeah, to me, there was a lot of really good ideas in Season of War Thondia that I felt like just didn't get their day in the sun because I think a lot of people thought, oh, this is just a narrative thing. It's not for me. It's, super narrative, and just kind of ignored it. One of the things I kind of mentioned this before the show, but man, there's so many great battle plans that have just never been played.
Right.
Because they're sitting in publications and require very specific things, which will lead us on to the next one. Let's go full on narrative now. But I want to talk about where something went wrong. Okay. So this is my first example of something going horribly wrong to me. So this is out of Broken Realms. Specifically, this is out of Be'lakor, in case you're curious. And this is the battle plan Stampede of Scales. Okay. And you'll notice right off the rip that it has very unusual deployment zones. Right? Like it's, again, you don't have objectives other than the Eater of Tomes. This is this one thing that's on there that is relevant to the battle plan. But very different sort of zones and how you're setting up. Very, very much not a again, this is truly asymmetrical in the setup. But this, I have to go down a page to see the rest of this, because this battle plan is seriously 2 pages long. Okay. Mm-hmm. And this is the first place where this goes wrong. It's fully possible for them to write good narrative battle plans. I think Thondia was a pretty good exploration of like how to do it in a light way. But they could do deeper narrative stuff. Steve, you do this all the time without requiring an entire army. This is one of the things that drove me absolutely crazy about all of the narrative battle plans that were in all those Broken Realm books. And boy, do I really hope we do not see this repeated in the upcoming Harbingers / whatever that book series is called, right? 3.0 end times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Because this is wild. The Tzeentch army is a Gaunt Summoner. This particular thing. 14 other Tzeentch demon units, right? And then the Seraphon army is the Celestial Stampede, which is a War Scroll battalion, like a narrative battalion. Yep. And then 12 other Seraphon units. What? Right? And then there's rules about what all of those things have to be. And they're all like this. Yeah. Right? This one's actually, I picked this one because this was like the most open. Some of them are like one of these, one of these, one of these, one of these, one of these. And I'm like, come on, man.
I'm racking my brain here, Vince. Since when you sent this to us earlier today, I was racking my brain, and I have all the Broken Realm books, and I'm trying to think: did I embrace it? Did I? And I have no, I didn't, because I think it was this type of design.
Yeah.
I just was like, forget it. I mean, the really what I was buying those books for the new scrolls, for the new war scrolls, for the new rules, and the battle plans. It was a real mess by then. It was a real mess with this type of design.
Yeah, narrative players want to play. Okay, like, let me see if I can really make this real for people, because like this is such a fantastic fundamental misunderstanding of like narrative and narrative gaming. It blows my mind. Okay. When people write fan fiction, okay, they don't write their fanfic insert character into the exact story that was in the book. They do not rewrite the book word for word and replace the words Harry Potter with whatever their insert fanfic character name is. Okay?
Yeah.
That's not what that is. That's not narrative. And that's what this is asking you to do. It's assuming that, like, oh, don't you want to experience this moment from the narrative? Yeah, sure, that sounds cool. Like, no, like, I would like to experience I would like to experience the narrative you laid out, which is like Tzeentch fighting Seraphon, but like having this war. Like, the Broken Realm story of Be'lakor sounds pretty cool. I'd like to experience that narrative, or even some moments from it, but I don't want to experience it with the exact forces that were literally written and portrayed in the story at that exact moment.
No, so here's my pushback to you. What I want to experience is this. I don't want to experience the story as they've articulated it. Yes, there may be a war going on between these factions. I want you to dictate what that looks like, the specifics, but then also in the setup for this battle plan, say, at the same time on the Western Front.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was going.
Exactly. That's exactly what this should be. Is to say, yes, this is simultaneous with those other things are going on, but you get to write the narrative as to what happened.
You're creating the appendices. It's the appendices of the Broken Realms, like Lord of the Rings. It's these additional stories that take place that you're crafting that narrative for.
Yes, I agree. Natalie said it is a specific scenario, not narrative, and that stinks. I agree. This isn't narrative, right? They think it is, but it's not. Like, narrative would be exactly what you're talking about, Tom, where I mentioned that narrative things often have a heaviness to them, and that's because it should be like playing in the Broken Realms Be'lakor time period. Okay, so during this war, the big cloud is overhead, and that's doing these things, and it causes this effect, right? Be'lakor's like dark cloud that he spread, and, you know, the giants have come up from the sea to go fight on behalf. So like these random things happen because of that, or so like you can hire a mercenary mega gargant, or, you know, whatever, right? You can picture like the 50 things that would be like an emergent properties of the narrative happening during Be'lakor, the story, right? And now it's like, okay, here's the toolbox of elements of that time period, right? Now tell your story. I don't know. Neither of you ever played this game, I don't think. But there was an MMO for Lord of the Rings Online. Okay, I played a lot of that game, like way too much, like a lot. All right, and that game did such an amazing job of telling its own story in the time period of the Ring Bearer. Right?
Yeah.
Like. Every so often, you intersect with whatever, like, the Ring Bearer and Gandalf and the Nine, the Fellowship, are doing throughout various parts of the story. Like, you will occasionally meet up with them on their journeys, right? But it's pretty rarefied. Most of the time, you're off doing, like, exactly what you said. And also on the Western Front, here's what was going on in Angmar at that moment. Right?
Yeah.
And that's your character's job.
Yep. D&D picked up on this really well with their recent War of the Lance. Like the Dragonlance expansion, because that narrative is like, it is the War of the Lance, but it's not at the same space that everybody else is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it allows you to have an entire story that you can engage in and still be part of the main thrust of the big kind of narrative. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's honestly, that's what all of these scenarios, the narrative scenarios, need to be. Is you're in this known war, this named conflict, but maybe the story is alluded to in the narrative, like Be'lakor sends forces, gives commands to send forces out to the Western Front, right? And then so it's alluded to in the actual narrative, but then the scenario is what lays out what that thing ends up looking like.
Exactly. 2 comments. 1, Bed Staffordson, Vince playing Lotro instead of DDO. Tisk tisk. Ben.
I mean, we played DDO.
Played the heck out of DDO. You acted like I don't have max level characters in DDO as well and didn't run every single dungeon in that game. Okay, get out of here. All right. I have been on all that stuff. We my God, the number of South Threno runs, homie. We used to do South when that was the thing. We were South Threno running in under a minute, like at a sprint. At any rate, and then Blue said example in 40K, the Badab War or Badab. I don't know how you say that. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
I don't know 40K narrative stuff. There were loads of Space Marine chapters and non-Astartes groups participating. The battle plans contained therein didn't specify who exactly fought who. Exactly. It was just like, this is the war that's going on. It's this large spreading conflict. Here's the rules of this time period. Everybody's basically caught up in it. Tell your story. Right?
Yeah. It always puzzles me that they don't embrace that part of 40K. Like they really don't. They really don't explore this concept of the narrative that there were battles going on. That it just blows my mind. It blows my mind that they don't embrace it.
Right. This feels like just such an overweighty thing, right? And like there's like these extra rules that happen with like your that happen with your various units and all this stuff, and in the end you're just like, this is so much work, and who could play through all of these?
You can't. You can't. But I'm sitting here looking at it earlier today when you sent it too. I was looking at it and I like, all right, I resolved myself to say, okay, can I swap out Siege Army for Army X? And can I? And you can't. It's too much work.
Right.
You can't.
Yeah, you got to perform like major surgery, right?
Yeah. You go to page 2, and it's just like, oh, there's more. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So let's this to me is an example of like how not to serve the narrative audience. Right?
Yeah.
Like, and the examples of like, and again, it's not hard. You take those various elements we talked about earlier and you make them available, inserted into the battle plans in generic ways as the rules manifesting of the time period, the battle, the region, the thing that is going on right now, and say, okay, you bring your forces and tell your story in this particular time, in this particular place.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. All right. Cool. Triumph and Treachery. Now, this is straight out of General's Handbook 2017. 2017 was, as I said at the beginning, an all-time banger of GHBs. Would recommend, pick this thing up. It's worth it even now. So here's what I want. Here's why I brought this one up. I have played all of the Triumph and Treachery and Coalition of Death missions like 30 times each. So many times.
Yep.
Because we often play, at my tables, we often play 3 and 4 player games.
Right.
Same.
Okay. And so, and again, I don't know if I'm the only person in the world who's like that. Obviously, I'm not the only. Steve and I don't know if Steve and I are the only people in the world like that. But man, is it a lot of fun. And it's totally a different experience.
The best. It's the best.
I love 2-on-2. I love 3-player chaos games. Now, I will say, when we played this, we often didn't use like the secret objectives out of Triumph and Treachery.
Right.
And I would love, I just want to see more multiplayer support. Yeah, multiplayer is such a good way to get new people into the hobby. whether it is like doubles, 2-on-2, or just a 3-player thing, because it's not just straight 1-on-1. It's not new player versus experienced player, right? The 2 experienced players can sort of be like, hey, new player, you come join us, and we're going to do this 3-player thing. We'll focus on each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And you go there. This is the commander experience in Magic exactly, right? You could have like 3 experienced players. You got 1 person who's fairly new. They don't really know what they're doing. The other 3 players table, you just don't go beat up on that person. You let them like do their thing.
You leave them alone.
You leave them alone, and you let them get their feet wet, and like take their little baby bird flaps out of the nest, right? That's what this lets you do. It lets them do it in a comfortable way. Yep. So that's number 1. I just think that there should be way more multiplayer support in these books. This is basically the 1 GHB where we got support for it, and man, was it fun. The
treacherous acts, bribery, all of that stuff was great.
Sure.
It just added so much to it.
Yep.
And again, even if you don't want all of that stuff, which by the way, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying like I would love to see it just here's a scenario for 3 people.
Right.
Right? Or a scenario with up to 5 people or something like that. Whatever. I don't know. You know what I mean? This map here has 6 deployment zones. That's what those little red circles are.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so like again, the games I've written with Adam, we usually write them so that they can handle, like 1 to 4 people or something like that, right? So they can be multiplayer experiences. With Space Station Zero and with Rain in Hell, and with our new game, there's also the ability to co-op. Coming soon. In fact, that new game will be launching at TMX. Link down below. Come join us for TMX June 3rd and 4th. That's where the new game will be played in person and debuted. But the other thing I wanted to point out here is check out the victory points. Did you catch this? So first of all, there's this like secret objective, which is like the Triumph and Treachery secret objectives you generate. Okay, so that's fine. And that's worth some kind of points. You can use those or not. 1 victory point is scored in each phase for every 5 wounds you inflicted in that phase.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, so straight kill bonus victory point thing. Okay.
Yep.
This actually may or may not have influenced Holy War's design. So we're doing stuff. It's just so much fun, right? It's just awesome. Yeah. Especially when you're turning on your buddy who's got a weaker arm, right?
Sure. Like, you got a lot of wounds over there with a low save. I'm gonna go ahead and have to plow into that unit. Yeah.
Wait, what's your save there? Your save's a 6? Yeah, okay. You're my enemy this turn.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the best. So
and then at the end of the battle, the player whose general is carrying the artifact scores 10 victory points. If nobody has the artifact, the player with a model closest to it scores 5. If several players have equal distance, you score 2. This happens to be one where there's like a single artifact in the center of the table that you scrum toward. But there's a bunch of different ones in this setup. They're all like this. They all have multiple different ways that you score victory points. And that's really what I wanted to talk about. Because one of the things we really haven't explored, and again, they're not appropriate for most competitive tournaments, battle plans, and that's fine. But man, for general use battle plans, for narrative battle plans, for multiplayer battle plans, I really wish we would explore more ways to score points. Right?
Totally.
Like things like this. Now that's a very kill-focused objective, and that's fine sometimes. They shouldn't all be like that, but that's a good example. There's a pick up a thing and live. Yeah, that's a good example. There's like throughout this whole book, there's a bunch of different ones like this. Go to a place, do a thing, move somewhere, get off a table edge, yada yada yada. Right?
Yeah. Right.
And they're effectively they can perform a lot of the same function that either something like a battle tactic or a grand strat is doing in the normal game without presenting you with the choice paralysis that would normally be incurred, because it's not choose one from X every round at a certain time. It's just these are your 3 options to score points in this particular battle plan, and you build the battle plan around those 3 options. Like, you smartly design it to take into account those 3 options.
Right.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep.
Wouldn't that be delightful?
It would be.
No,
it just feels
right?
like it's the lowest hanging fruit, right?
That's what's so mind-boggling about it's right there. It's just
Yeah, we've written it before. Like, I didn't make this, folks.
No, right? No kidding.
Like,
right
they
there.
thought of this. I'm just saying, why did we stop?
I don't understand. Don't get it.
It blows my mind. I will also say another fun element to this one that I don't know if you all remember, but this is a fun one. A lot of the Triumph and Treachery ones and Coalition ones use this. They have a varying endpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. It's yeah.
Right. The random event is the end of the game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It can end as early as the 4th round, or then go, I think, up to like the 7th or whatever, is when it becomes basically automatic.
Yeah. Oh boy! Next club day, we're breaking this out again.
I'm telling you, man, these were great battle plans. I love
it.
Bangers.
This was it. This was wow. This was so much fun. Just so much fun, and wow, yeah, can't wait to go back to it.
And like I said,
the boys
it's
are
not
all
just
town. We have a full player. Yep,
there you go. Exactly. And like this same book also had the Coalition of Death ones in them, which which played with a lot of the same stuff, just in a different way. Obviously it didn't have the Triumph and Treachery secret objectives, but it had a lot of the same, like, different ways to score. It's assuming you're playing teams, you know, like all these different deployment functions and stuff like that. You have a warlord function, so like killing the enemy warlord was worth more points, right? Like just
you had realm rules too. That worked well in the battle plans.
Yeah, I agree with AOS Coach. Really wish we had more Triumph and Treachery. We played it a lot at club on a Friday night. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So like this just, and here's what's so funny about this. So like I'll get to it in a minute, but they included little samples of this in the 3.0 core book. Do you remember this? In the very back of the 3.0 core book, there's like one siege battle plan, one Triumph and Treachery battle plan, and one like coalition battle plan or whatever. And I'm like, what is this? Are these battle plans for ants? What kind of what is one battle plan worth to me?
Well, the designer was in the room and he's like, come on, guys, this was the last one. We never went anywhere with it. Come on, I sink all this time into it. Please put it in. Please.
Yeah. They just like snuck it in. It's like the last 4 pages of the book, right?
Right.
And I'm just like, what use is this to anyone? Who's like, let's play Triumph and Treachery again on our one battle plan?
Why?
I'm flipping through. Oh man, even the siege stuff in 2017 was great.
It was, they had the whole siege builder in there too. Yep.
Oh, awesome.
Which, by the way, is what they lifted almost directly for that one stage siege in the back of 3.0, which is what's so funny to me. They were like, hey, we had a good idea there. Let's just shove it in here, but never do anything with it. Right?
Ridiculous.
Yeah. It's like if I asked somebody to grow some tomatoes for food and they went out and planted one tomato plant. Like, okay, that's good, I guess. We'll get some tomatoes. But I was really looking for more.
Right.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about GHB 2018. Let's go forward 1 year in time from 2017 to 2018, where we get everybody's favorite, the battle plan that clearly no one ever hated. Everyone was completely on board for this, and it in no way broke everyone's brain the moment they looked at this map.
I say, what the hell is that?
The relocation orb. Okay.
The word.
Remember how many conversations you had about, okay, wait, it moves over here? No, wait, it moves over here? Wait. No, I think it's over here.
Yep.
Shut up. I hate it so much.
So, relocation orb. Obviously, the way it bounces and it can repeat bounce and all of that. Let us not forget, though, that when determining control of an objective, each hero with an artifact of power and each wizard that is within 3 inches of the objective counts as 20 models instead of 1. That's right. They're all Mega Gargants. So your normal units are worth nothing, basically.
Nothing. Right. Nothing.
Chase this thing with high-powered heroes only, or get out.
Right.
Okay.
That had to be a typo.
It's so funny.
They added a 0 onto there.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
it was
supposed to be 2.
It had to be a typo. It was supposed to be 2.
Yeah. Yeah, because before they counted 2.
Nobody cares. We don't need to FKQ that one. Let's just leave it at 20.
Yeah. Okay. I think
Insanity.
this one fails, and like clearly they're not making battle plans like this anymore, and they've learned their lesson. But I thought it was still instructive to talk about why this is a failure in every possible way of a competitive battle plan, and why it's probably even a failure as a general battle plan. Like why battle plans like this are just like bad.
Not a good idea.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
They can just be not a good idea.
Yes. Yeah.
And to me, this breaks so many cardinal rules. One, taking a very specific, particular subset of models that are going to vary wildly army to army, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like your Khorne guy has one. Your Khorne army potentially has like one army or one guy that could count as 20, probably in many build-outs.
Right.
Whereas your Lumineth armies or whatever, it's just like everybody's 20. Just they're all 20.
Yeah, everybody's 20. All 20. All 20.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. KK said we made it bad as a joke. Yeah.
Do you remember how you would you'd have to try to figure out a way to get a wizard? Like you'd be banging your head against the wall. Like, how can I get a wizard into this army? Even if you didn't want to bring a wizard.
Even if you didn't want to bring a wizard. Yep.
Yeah.
So you've got wildly iniquitous sort of scoring, right? And model count, like objective capture potential. You have one objective, almost always a terrible idea. Like, this is, if you're going to use objectives, and by the way, we already talked about in the show how like it's perfectly possible to write battle plans with no objectives, right? That artifact, the thing we just looked at, when you look at this, you think, well, ostensibly there's only one objective here, Vince. Why is this different? Because it's not the only objective. I've got these other 2 methodologies up here to score victory points. So actually, every enemy unit becomes an objective because I can go punch them and get victory points out of them, right? I can pull out my secret objectives and get victory points out of them. There are many objectives in this, even though only one of them takes physical form on the table.
Yeah.
Right? Here, there's one objective. It's one thing. Almost anything in this game that has been written with 1 or 2 objectives is almost by necessity a failure of a battle plan, almost no matter what audience is trying to serve. Because it just cuts against the grain of what makes the game interesting. Everybody goes like a magnet directly to that objective. You play 5 rounds scrumming in that place.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
It's and so like, and this one's even worse because this also has the oops you lose problem.
You know, one way to write that, by the way, I was just thinking about this. Like, let's say that you wanted to do that. Okay. One way to write it would be to say, and this would be horrible tracking, so it'd be super hard to do, would be something like units that have contested this objective in a prior turn no longer can contest the objective.
I mean, if you want to talk about the good way to write this battle plan, Tom, it's just Realmstone Cache out of the current GHB, right?
Yeah.
That's constraining it properly because there you do have one objective for 3 rounds of the game, and then it explodes into 2 objectives. Now, I think Realmstone Cache is like a above average but not great battle plan.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I certainly don't think it's one of the all-time best. It's no Prize of Gillet, right? It's fine. It's fine. I don't hate it. But there are 4 places the objectives can end up. They are well known. The moment they will end up there is well known. This is all known information, right?
Yep.
And then so it becomes skill testing to like plan accordingly. It's just are they going to be here and here or here and here?
Yep.
That's it. It's a bimodal state, right?
Yep.
it's the nice thing about that too is for the first 3 turns, you're playing for that explosion.
Mm-hmm.
You're deploying in a manner that you say, okay, I have to keep stuff that's going to be fast enough to get to where it needs to be. So it takes into account your movement, it takes into account your strategy, and how much you want to invest in those first 3 rounds. Like, what are you going to go in there with? And are you going to? And then don't jack yourself up because you know it's gonna move. And you, like you said, Vince, you know where it is, and then you can get there and you can plan for it. Exactly. And that's where the whole concept of taking first turn or not taking the priority or not taking the priority feeds really well into that battle plan.
Absolutely. So to me, this one's like a failure. Like it's an all-time failure, right? And I don't like. I'm not interested. They're never going to reprint Relocation Orb. They got smacked on the wrist hard enough for that one, right? Yeah. But I think the lessons we extract here: extremely inequitous scoring, extreme high randomness, right?
Yeah.
Very low number of objectives. These are all lessons we should take and go. In almost any battle plan, that's going to be a fail because basically no persona likes this. Right. There's no narrative players. What is this doing for narrative players? Like there's a subset of Timmy players who want everything to be as absolutely random as possible. Like if you're the type of person who plays a flip a coin deck in Magic, you got your heads I win, tails you lose.
We
deck.
see you.
Right.
We know you. Yeah.
Then this is admittedly probably you're the one persona that this battle plan probably works for. And they like this. Right? But that is I suspect, I don't have any like empirical data to back this up, but my read of it is that's a small subset. Like most narratives, most general use people, most beginners, and certainly competitive players would hate this experience.
Yeah.
I think you can have some random elements included that trip the trigger for that player profile without going this far.
Is this scenario salvageable if it was just moving? If it
only could move once.
Yeah, or if it's moving twice, it goes. It starts in the center. It could go to the center of that the top right. So like on that diagonal.
If it couldn't multi-ball, is that what you're saying? Because like right now it can multi-ball, right? It can be like
right.
Bop,
it can go here,
bop,
here. Yeah, right.
Bop.
Exactly.
It can like keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it salvageable then?
I don't think so.
Maybe it's not even worth talking about.
Yeah. No. I mean, my short answer is no because of all those other things working against it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to like strip this to the studs. There, like I said, there is probably a core concept here that's good, and that's just Realmstone Cache or some other extrapolation like that. Right?
I was just seeing how long we could talk about it and annoy Tom.
It's fine. Whatever.
Look at him.
That's all I gotta say. Whatever.
Sad panda.
Yeah.
Sad panda.
I agree with Blue, who says, "Imagine this being the first game you play as you try to get into AOS. Would you ever play? Would you ever want to play again?"
No.
Oh boy.
No.
That would break you. Okay. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about malign portents. So this was another one I went and dug into. I remember there was battle plans in this thing. It's just the number of battle plans that lie in the ash bin of history, right? Yeah. Okay. Why is this one cool to me? Well, this one is cool to me for a couple of reasons. First off, 4 objectives spread relatively far-ish apart. On the current tables, this would be like the 4 corners, like the Nidus Paths 4 objective setup, which is one of my favorite objective setups. That does a nice job of pulling armies apart. So it's a good objective setup. If you're going to use, again, if objectives are to be used, then let's use them in the right ways. Make sure they're spread. There's a good number of them. Read 4 or 5 is the correct number usually. Like that's just what it boils down to. You can push to 6 in one. You can push to 3 in one, but 4 or 5 is just by most of the time the correct number. They should be spread relatively apart where they're encouraging movement, so on and so forth. But, so that's all fine. Dude, Moloxor, the named purple sun in the middle of the battlefield that you can take control of. Oh, now we're talking. Okay, as a competitive battle plan, no, trash. As a general use or fun battle plan, fantastic. This is the kind of stuff I want to see continue to be explored. Steve, this is where you live, doing this kind of stuff.
Right.
We messed around with the idea of putting Purple Sun on one of the tables. We did. We've thought about bringing that element into play, and just throwing it down and having some fun with it. But yeah, this is where we live. Absolutely.
You know, the only problem with this scenario, okay, was it was actually really hard to get control of Moloxor, because you had to control like 3 of the objectives, right? Yeah, you have to control more. So you had to control 3 out of the 4 objectives, right? And I always thought that was such a whiff because of the nature of this being a 4 objective plan. It was just really hard to take control of him. It might have been. I thought it was Malign Portents, but maybe it was Malign Sorcery. I might have written down the wrong book. I went through both of them, AOS Coach. So I'm sorry if I'm.
I have it in Malign Sorcery.
Okay.
Malign Sorcery. I'm looking at it right now.
Sorry.
You're good.
Those 2 things were published back to back. I went and took the picture and did all this stuff, and then was like, wait, which one was it? And I took a guess and I guessed wrong. There you go. Sorcery. Thank you. Thank you, Coach.
You're good. I'm good.
Okay. All right. So, whereas, Tom, reimagine this as a 5 objective battle plan, right? Where now it's very likely that it trades back and forth every round. And like you've got a stretch to hold your 3, but the other person has 2. You know, classic 5 objective. You're fighting over the one. A lot of trading going on, which is what AOS says. It's a trading game, right? And every round, then people are getting control of the Purple Sun, and it's doing something. Oh man, this scenario flips on a dime, buddy, and becomes like way more cool.
Yeah.
So like, Steve, you do this correctly. I think of like the ice table, your ice flow table. So for those who've never been to a holy event, Steve has these incredibly gorgeous, incredible tables. Each one is its own sort of narrative experience in and of itself.
Yeah.
But one of them is this huge ice lake with like a big castle on one side and a skull altar and all this other cool stuff. And at one side of the battlefield, you have 2 basically Shaggoth models, right?
Right.
But they're like bronze
the twins
golems, effectively.
Right?
And each player gets control of one of these models. You just have control of it from the beginning, and they can't attack each other. They're barred from attacking each other, but otherwise they can go move around and do things and fight the enemy army, right?
Right.
Yep.
And so like what you cotton to right away with it is like, no, taking control of the toy should be the near automatic part. Playing with the toy is what makes it fun and interesting, right? Don't put the toy on the table and then make it near impossible to use.
Right. Well, the funny story there, Vince, is that Bryce broke it. Bryce and Walter broke it. Game 1, the first day, the year that table debuted, we didn't have the brotherly love rule, which prevented the twins from attacking each other. So they just had them smack off against each other, and then suddenly they were dead. And I'm like, what the hell happened? And so I had that's the whole concept of designing on the fly and having the favorite rules. But yeah. Thank you.
I think the first time you and I played on that table, Steve, that's the first thing I did too. I think I charged yours immediately and attacked yours to kill yours.
You did, and I said, and I think I told you, that was the Slanesh. You just like punked my entire Doom Knight army where I didn't even get to play with my model. You just took it all off the board, and I was like, what the hell just happened? I just got blundered. But like, yes, you did do that. And then I thought, okay, that's Vince's brain. Everybody else is going to embrace the narrative. It'll be okay. And sure enough, nope, that didn't happen. Nope. So
Vince is just a broken individual. That's one, that is true. But 2, no, other people sadly think like me too, Steve.
Yes.
Nope.
Yeah, Coach said, imagine this is a chained incarnate. I agree, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, just like, there's so many cool ways we could be using other models on the table that people get control of.
I love the idea of putting the Purple Sun under the black pit of Tzeentch on the Tzeentch table.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because you're forced to go dead center. Just have it chained underneath like as if the black pit is just
like
holding it there.
In stasis.
It's just holding it in stasis. And you gotta go in. You get smacked really hard. Here we go. I was just talking to Reed about what we could do to that table.
There you go.
There you go. We're gonna put Purple Sun chained underneath the black pit.
Seems perfect to me. Yep.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
And this is just a thing, like, I mentioned how much I want to see multiplayer and team type battle plans, but I'd love to see battle plans that are also just like maybe a little wacky and fun. Isn't this supposed to be a fun game? Right?
Well, I think we touched on it earlier, Vince. That's the difference between 2017 and what we get now.
Right.
Like, it was there. It was all there for us. And I mean, I'm not kidding when I sit here and tell you that we're gonna be playing 2017 Battle Plan, because it's just, I forgot how much fun it was.
Right.
So it's a total joy. It's a joyful experience. It's what made the game. It's honestly 2017 is probably what made we really fall in love with Age of Sigmar, right? I mean,
100%.
think of that transition. Think of how hard that was coming out of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, going into, and then when that dropped, it was like it was game changing, literally game changing, and it was just such a wonderful experience.
Yeah. So I completely agree. I just think it was the transition moment, because the GHB 2016 really didn't have form yet. Like, it gave some points. It did the basic stuff. It kind of like got the game into shape. 2017 is the one where it was like, oh no, this is a real game now. Here's this thing. We're going to give you modes to play in. This kind of stuff. And, things like this are such a cool idea for just sort of general wacky fun. Like, again, in the GHB, we could have... I hate that we've put it under the structure of open narrative matched, because that sort of... Suddenly they feel like we got to put all this other weight in it. When, like, what I really want is a battle plan book. And it's like, here's generic. The GHB. It's got the competitive tournament experience. I want those things tight, right? And like the tourney experience, I want 12 out of 12 bangers where TOs can pick any 5 and feel like they're going to have a great standard match play tournament, and it will be a good time, and people will have a unified, controlled, even, fun experience, right? Where like scores don't get too high, people complete their games on time. That is perfect. That's what I want. I want that to exist, right?
Yep.
But I also want like the battle plan book to come out once an edition. I don't think one book every 3 years is a big ask. It's like the big book of battle plans, and it's got some Triumph and Treachery wins in it. It's got some Coalition of Death wins in it. It's got some wacky fun like one-on-one matches in it where extra models are on the table, where other interesting stuff is happening, random events, like built-in battle tactics. Like, why not?
Imagine
why does this not
how
exist?
Amazing that would be. Yeah.
Right. It just blows my mind that this product doesn't exist. It just feels like the easiest slam dunk. And yet here we are. I don't know.
And
by the way, Steve, we lost your camera. I don't know why. Oh, there you are. You're back.
I went to get my 3.0 book.
Oh, you're good. Okay, cool. No issue. I just want to make sure you knew.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. So, anyways, that's my pitch. So, AOS 4.0 is coming next year. So let's make it happen, folks. We can do it. GW, if you want, you can just outsource this to me. I'll start brainstorming. I got a good year. We'll get it. I'll get it turned over for you. I'm willing to work for completely unreasonable prices. So get your checkbook out. It ain't gonna be cheap. Okay.
I didn't grab 3.0.
Core Book 3.0. This, I wanted to make reference to this just to show this. Battleplan Convergence of Fate. They have like this nod to Triumph and Treachery in here, where you've got the 4 territories, up to 4 players, right? But we lost in this all of the fun stuff that we had in the 2017 Triumph and Treachery, right?
Yeah.
It's a set time for the battle rounds, not random. It doesn't have the multi objective control thing. Like, we cut everything that was good. We totally lost the thread.
I will say though, to say something positive about this, for a 4-player game, this deployment is better.
Agreed. This is a great deployment map. Yeah.
Perfect deployment map. You could take that original Triumph and Treachery, put your objective there in the middle, spot in, you do the same exact thing, you're just doing this. And that's great, because like so many times you felt unbalanced, especially in like a 3-player situation where you have that long table, like you were in that little 12-inch bubble.
Yeah, you can do lots of different objective maps with this terrain setup and actually have it be reasonable.
Yeah.
You can do like 3 across the middle, 1, 2, 3. Right. Everybody has relatively equal access to that. You can do a 4 objective, 1, 1, 1, 1. Right?
Yeah.
Like
it's a
there's
great
actually
map.
Yeah, like this is I completely agree with you. This is a fantastic, easy setup map that makes me like, okay, cool. I know where my forces go. You have like, some particular space where you're allowed to be. Yeah, it's great.
The rest of it's hot garbage, but yeah.
Right, yeah. But like this is a great setup map. You are right to absolutely point that out. Cygnus says we need a general's handbook and a wacky lieutenant's notepad. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, there you go.
That's all I'm asking.
I don't know if did you see Tom Grant's? No, I think that was to the purple sun underneath the.
Yeah. Yes. Should be fun. I see no issues. I say go for it. Like, to me, what this just shows is how, like, the reason I put this one in here was 2 reasons. One, to make fun of the, like, these little just nothings at the end of the core book 3.0 that are completely worthless because they didn't bother to build them out into anything actually usable.
Yeah.
But 2, to talk about how much, to me, the journey from the one I showed from the 2017 book to the one that came out in 3.0 2021 4 years later, how much we lost the story of what we're even on about here, right?
Yeah.
This is not Triumph and Treachery.
No.
Okay? This is just a 4-player map with a single objective that lasts 4 rounds. That's all this is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You notice too, like if you flip the page, and I know it's not on here, so you can't flip the page, but they have the tunnel fighting scenario right after.
Yeah. Right.
What a miss, right? I mean, like, what the heck? Like, come on.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
He said yes, 100%. It was to the purple sun, by the way. There you go. Yeah. So like. I just think that it's important often when the designers of D&D 5th edition sat down and wanted to make 5th edition, the first thing they did was go back and read and play every other edition.
Right.
Yeah. I will also say this is the same thing we did when we wrote a thing that was like proto 5th edition because we were on the same page.
Yeah.
And the reason you do that kind of thing is because in any kind of game like this, over time, you're going to have some good ideas, you're going to have some bad ideas, right? Whether it be additions or individual rule supplements or whatever.
Yep.
And it's very easy in the tumult of the constant move for new product and new books and new whatever to lose the thread of really good ideas you had.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's true.
And so, like, I thought this would be important to go back and look and say, where were those good things? Where did they have it? Where did they strike gold? And then just stop mining that vein.
Right.
And I think that's absolutely what happened here. Okay. Holy events. Here we go. So this is one of Steve's items. I pulled this out of. This is table 1, the challenge stone. So this is this particular type. Steve's events have 2 different formats, by the by. In one of Steve's events, each table has its own sort of scenario that you're doing. And then in a different one, you're following. It is a standard, like everybody's playing the same thing, but it's following a set narrative over the course of the 5 rounds. But the reason I picked this one, Steve, is because this is from the Grail, not the Warpstone, right?
Correct.
And so the reason that I thought this one was interesting is because what Steve does here is you've utilized a couple of the elements, many of the elements we've talked about. Because, one, we already mentioned how on some of your tables you will have models that fight with you, right? We mentioned the Bronze Guardians and the Ice table. you have terrain being a focal point of this. Now, in this case, like this is the challenge stone, one of everybody's favorite table. Everybody loves the challenge stone. It's a super fun table. It's just Murderthon ogre table. It's great. I agree. A+ will play again. No notes. I completely agree. So many fun games in this table.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And but the terrain objective is the team that has tallied the most wounds caused in the combat phase within the maximum radius of the challenge stone by the end of the battle has won the objective. And so in this case, you're referencing a very specific piece of terrain, and that like there's a separate card that explains all the terrain rules on the table that you'd be looking at, and it's explaining like what the radius of the challenge stone means and stuff like that. It's effectively just a 3-inch expanding radius that gives you +1 attacks.
Yep.
But the important part is that's exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about, where that kind of a rule could be written into any battle plan that they did. Now, it couldn't be that specific, right? Because they don't know what the challenge stone is, but they could write a rule called like the what is it, like the proving ground, sure, something like that, right?
Yeah,
The challenge ground, and they could say randomly choose a terrain feature not wholly within a deployment zone, right? All units within blah of that terrain feature gain +1 attack, and controlling it's worth this or whatever, cause the most wounds near it or do something with it, hold it for at least 3 rounds, like whatever. There could be 10 different iterations of how you score points off of it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And again, they don't need to know what your table is. You could have anything. If you just, again, it could be 2 soda cans taped together. Fine, great, you got it. That works. Right? And like, I just think, Steve, a lot of your missions, you use a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about here. Just part and parcel.
Yeah. It stemmed from the early days in 2003 when the boys and I started to play Warhammer on a more consistent basis, and it really, the genesis of all of it came from kind of, quite honestly, it was 40K and then Lord of the Rings that we were playing at the time. We weren't playing Warhammer Fantasy Battle at the time.
Yep.
But we were making up our own little type of things. I'd build out this really crazy terrain and we put it on the table, and we would create really immersive rules around that. It's just been how we've played here at the HQ, our headquarters. And it's just the way we play it, and it's a great time. It's just an absolute blast when you can play a game that's completely immersive. And that's what's, we talked about earlier in the show, that's what's kind of missing from some of these battle plans. You have these, and the other thing that's unique about, I think, with the Holy Event is like the Grail token objectives, for example. There's 3, right? There's one that's and that we don't put them on the map here because we'll randomly, it'll get placed before the tournament during the event, so that players they rock up to the table and they see. And the objective, they're always in harm's way. There's a price to be paid to claim the objective from the terrain. And on this particular table, it's those bonfires that are dishing out those unsavable holy wounds, right? That cannot be negated. So you have to, not only there's the bonus you're getting from the challenge stone, and then there's the penalty you're getting from the bonfires to try and claim the objective at the same time. And so it's this kind of dueling objectives within the battle plan. That there's a positive and then there's negative, right? And it's, what do you want to sacrifice? What do you want to, how do you strategically plan? What unit would be good? What unit can weather the bonfire holy wounds? And can you hold on to that, right? And it's pretty much the theme that we repeat on most of the tables, not all the tables. Every table is slightly different, but in terms of the, like, whether a Grail token is going to be in super harm's way or not, right? Sometimes it could be in a position where it's giving you a buff because of whatever the terrain is in that area. So
yeah, what I thought was fascinating about something like this is how many of the things I'm talking about you're using in this one game. Okay.
Right.
You've got the terrain interaction that I talked about. You've got classic objectives. That's the Grail tokens. Yeah, they're not listed on the map, but like for most intents and purposes, they are classic objectives, right? They're a thing. They sit on the table. You want to go stand near them. Now, you have an extra rule in here that heroes and monsters can't claim them. Okay.
Correct.
which they do sometimes play around with, right? Certain types can or can't claim or don't count as much or count for a little more or something like that. So that's fine. You're both playing the same space there. And I like those kind of slight modifications. Again, as long as they're not too heavy, as long as they're not the thing we saw earlier, right? But what was it? Duality of Death. Only like wizard heroes or something could claim the objective at all. Like, whoa, way too heavy. Way too heavy, right? Yeah. So you got to be careful with that. But again, there's good and bad ways to use most rules. Then you have your secret mission where you've got to note this thing down. And again, this is very like a scheme, which we'll talk about in just a second.
Yeah.
But you have to, over the course of so in broader terms, it's more like a grand strat. But the trick is you use all 5 of them over the course of the
one
whole
use only
tournament, because they're each one use. So like, okay, is this the game where I'm going to do Iron Will? And you're trying to achieve it over the course of the whole game, right?
Yeah.
It's not just this one turn thing. You make the decision at the beginning when you rock up. You're not done. There's no paralysis of choice in the middle of play. You just set it and that's it. You're going, now. Right. But a lot of times these are very sort of orthogonal goals. Like look at Traitor. Before the game begins, choose a hero to complete this mission, write it down. At the end of the game, he needs to be within 6 inches of the opponent's table edge. Okay? Guess what's probably not within 6 inches of the opponent's table edge? Most of the opponent's forces or an objective.
Right.
Anything else.
Right.
And so like hence you're making you have to make a choice there of using a theoretically good piece and getting it over in a position that's clearly like out of position by the end of the game. Right.
Yep.
And so which how many times have you seen somebody pick Traitor, Tom, and then like just randomly about round 3 they just start booking? They're just like racing, baby. Like this suddenly this
I know what you're doing.
Like, turned and it's just like full speed running 6 this direction. It's like, okay, I got you.
Exactly.
I understand what this is.
Right. Yeah. Like they'll kind of wander a little bit and then all of a sudden it's just like boom.
Right. Yeah. And it was interesting when battle tactics and grand strats came into the game. We had secret missions for a long time, and so it was for us it was like, oh, we're already doing that, so we're not even going to put that into the game. Right. And what's really great about what I really like about our event is that we don't use grand strat. We don't use it for this one, right? The grand strat will be used in Holy Havoc.
But you don't use battle tactics in either.
You don't use battle tactics, right? Yeah. So.
And I love it. Tom and I are both big fans. It's one of our. It's like it's such a. I tell you what, I don't miss it. But then there's also a 4th thing here that at the end you get an extra bonus point if you have more of your deployed units alive. Again, another interesting orthogonal goal to kind of or not orthogonal, sorry, aligned goal to kind of score points. It goes back to what we were talking about with the Triumph and Treachery mission we looked at, right? Here's another thing that isn't sitting on an objective, but it's another way to score some kind of points, right? Multiple avenues toward points, right?
Yeah.
I like that as a thing. And to me, competitive event, good, keep it on rails, tight control, that's fine. You've got like, here's your objectives, here's your battle tactic. Fine. Again, we've talked about how battle tactics should be changed many times in the show, but good. Okay, cool. Let that sit over there and be that thing. Within the broader general use, man, there's got to be more we can explore. Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, let's end here on schemes. I've talked about schemes many times on this show. This is a thing that we created for NashCon back in the day. The way that schemes work, this is a sample card that we made for the event. And so this is in pre battle tactics and grand strats. None of that existed when we made these things. But this was us realizing that a secondary objective was good, and I still think this is a better implementation than grand strat by far. And agreed. I think 10th edition 40K proves me right. So history wins. Just saying, GW, you had my whole file. I gave you open permission to use this, and you still went your direction. because you thought you were more right than me. I guess you weren't. At any rate,
not that Vince feels strongly about it.
No, it's okay. I'm good. I know. Look, I don't sweat it because I always know history will prove me right, so it's fine. In the long run, I can wait. The way schemes worked is like this. It's a 5-round tournament. At the beginning of the tournament, you were dealt 7 cards randomly. You flipped your 7 cards, and those were 7 different schemes in each game. Much like Steve's secret missions we just looked at, you could use one of them. Once you use it, you burn it. And we specifically designed them to be truly like perpendicular goals to winning the mission. You were always trying to do unusual stuff that wasn't just like perfectly aligned with like kill more. They weren't win more.
Yeah.
And so the one here is called murdering your protege. Your lieutenant has been plotting to usurp your rule, declaring it's only a matter of time before they in charge. Little do they know that the day will never come. Your troops, though, can never know, lest they turn on you. So, before the start of the game, after all units have been deployed, choose a single hero in your army that is not the general. This model must be killed by the enemy before the end of the game for this scheme to be successful. And then, like, these were kept secret. So, the key is, you have 7, you have to use 5, because they're not repeatable, right? So, you can leave 2 just lying if you draw 2 that aren't as good for you. And they're kept secret, like they're sitting face down. Like you have to draw your card, set it face down on the table next to you, and then that's what the reveal condition is, right? When you complete it, you flip it over and say, "I got my points." Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. It's good.
And that's
and they're a limited resource across the event as well.
Yep.
So it's not like you're performing the same thing in every game.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. That's good.
They were worth pretty hefty points in the event. Like they were worth the equivalent of a minor victory. So like if you got your major victory and this, it was like a major plus a minor is what you were effectively scoring at the time, right? So they made a big deal.
But they
David's
were
still using them, right? Or no?
No, we don't use them now.
No.
Now they just use standard battle tactics. Yeah.
That's a shame.
Yeah, it is because so what you would do is we had a pile of 26. Is that right, Vince?
Yeah, 26. Yep.
Maybe we should look at those.
You would draw.
I got the file, Steve. Print you ready.
Maybe we should look at those. Yeah,
you'd have 26. You had 26. You would draw 7 at the beginning of the event. Right. And
came with your pack. Like when you came up and collected your paddle pack during registration, there was a big stack, and you just pick 7 cards. Just drew 7 random. Obviously, you didn't know what you were drawing. You were randomly drawing 7.
Yep, you would draw 7, and then each match you would decide to use one of your 7, and for that entire scenario, that's the only one that is functionally your secondary objective.
Right.
Yeah.
Or in 3rd edition equivalent, it was functionally your grand strat.
Right.
Right. Do you remember when we had the warlord cards?
Yep.
Remember we had those the treasure and the
Absolutely.
Yeah. Might be interesting to look at that at our meeting, our Holy Havoc meeting coming up.
Yeah.
I mean, it would for Steve, Warlord Reborn.
Yeah, it would replace. It's the equivalent of what was the thing you used to do?
The Warlord mission.
It was the equivalent of your secret mission.
Yeah, the secret mission, right?
Yeah, for you, it would fill that slot in your scenario rather than having a fixed list. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something we should look at.
So, to me, this is it's battle plan adjacent because this is the kind of thing that can sit on top of other battle plans as well. And again, provide another method towards scoring, towards things you're doing on the battle plan that aren't just go to a place, kill the people on that place.
Yeah, and you want it to be orthogonal. Like with this type of thing, it's orthogonal to what you're trying to accomplish in the scenario. Yep. And so you almost always are having to make a decision. Do I do this or do I complete the scenario? Because it's not with those units, because it's an either or.
It's got a Malifaux feel to it too, right? So you can pick up that win. You could be losing the game, but you get this win condition, and you suddenly win the game. Just like when in Malifaux, when you lose all your models, but you can still complete a scheme.
Yep.
So it's pretty cool. It's good design.
All right, so there we go, folks. That's the breakdown. That's what's good and bad. I hope the things that they emerge. I know it's weird. I'm usually complaining about the number of books and the number of things and bloat, but to me, publishing one book per edition, that would be like the big battle plan pack for this edition. It's just a slam dunk of a win. Like if you're looking for more money, it just feels like they've got this sitting on the table. There's so much design space sitting in battle plans that's unexplored. And I just think there's both, like, it's one of those alignments where, like, hey, you publish the article for the commended entries. Let's see if we can manifest this one too, right? Well, there's money to be made. There's fun to be had. It just feels like a win-win for everybody.
Well, can I push this one farther, Vince?
Yeah, go for it.
I think there's a home for this. Do you know what that's called? No. Like for GW, in your current product line, there is a home for this. Okay. Do you know what that is?
What's that?
Season of War.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Because Season of War is dictating the season that the war is taking place in.
Sure.
In a particular region. And it would be easy to make half of that resource battle plans and the other half narrative, right? And some of them can be keyed towards pitch battle. Some of them can be keyed towards narrative. Some, like you can do this type of experimental thing in that, and you could even have multiple, like packs, play packs or whatever in there. Like the product is already there.
Yep.
Right.
Agreed.
Yeah, it is.
We could go that direction too. I'd be fine with that. I'd be completely fine with that. So, yeah. Okay. Well, there we go, everybody. Hey, tell you what, Steve. Thank you so much, buddy. It was a pleasure to have you on, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks for triggering my brain to go back to 2017.
I told you.
I cannot wait. I just can't wait to break into those. It's going to be a great time. That was the glory days for us here at the HQ. So I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. For all of you out there, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Don't forget, hit buttons, click like, subscribe. Basically, click the things that make the dings. It's a lot of fun for you and your whole family. They'll all enjoy it. They'll think you're cooler. All your friends will definitely think you're cooler if you click those buttons. Just guaranteed. Parentheses, not guaranteed. Do that stuff. If you want to support the channel, there's lots of ways you can do that. Don't forget about TMX. I will be teaching there along with Sam and John June 3rd and 4th up in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. It's going to be a great time. At Uncle Adam's convention. Obviously, Uncle Adam will be there too. We're debuting our next game there. So that'll be a lot of fun. That launches there at the beginning of June. And pretty excited about this one. And there's also a Patreon down there if you want to directly support the channel. That's fantastic. That's focused on hobby, review, and feedback, and taking your next step on your hobby journey. So thank you to everybody who is a patron. It's greatly appreciated. And for all of those rest of you, hey, join in the fun. But as always, if you're watching this, well, then I am grateful to it. I thank you so much. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.